I don't know why, but the CPC, the Conservative Party, is going with this as an anti-Christian thing, but they're missing the complete point here. Is we have a growing fanatic situation in our streets, and the only way to broadly to address it is to broadly impact everyone's rights and freedoms. And this is the situation we're in here in Canada with this Bill C9.
When you're starting to define hate speech, it's like, who's the judge and jury on that? Like, and how slippery of a slope that is. And as culture shifts, as definitions of words shift, who's going to apply that? And then also on top of that, the C9 takes away the Attorney General's need to approve these types of things and giving the power to the police, which means it's up to the police where these police abuse their power because they don't know the law. They don't even know. We're losing it here. We're losing our country.
If Pierre Poilievre was prime minister, do you think any of these things that we're talking about would change, or would it be more of the same?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Citizen.
Good to be here.
In December.
On our way to Christmas. Around the corner. Hope you guys are doing well.
You're a dad again?
I am a dad again. We've had a busy month.
Yeah.
Baby number 2, Ada, Sunday,
you look good.
Craig.
You look rested.
I feel good. I've been sleeping all right. My
Good.
wife is a little bit in a different boat
Sleep,
than me.
yeah, sleep gets redefined when you become
I am
a
not
dad again.
needed at all in the range of 9 p.m. till 9 a.m. I wake up when they're feeding and look over. How you guys doing? I'm fine. All right. And I go back to bed. That's pretty much what I was like. Can I get you anything? Can I get you water?
Yeah,
Can
totally,
I get you all
totally.
that? No, it's good.
Shout out to all the moms and that make it all happen.
Yeah,
Gosh.
it's so funny because our boy is 3 years old, and having number 2, Ada, who's 2 weeks now, I completely forgot everything. Like, it feels like it's a firstborn again because, like, I don't remember anything with the newborn stage.
Mm-hmm,
Do they do this? How often do we feed them? How often are they supposed to wake up? Do you have to wake them up? Like, what do you do? Like, it's 14 diapers a day. Is that normal?
Yes, it's normal. Yeah.
I feel like Gabe was 2.
No.
We just forget everything
I know.
when it's that much time. So it's
Yeah, you rip through a pack of diapers every 2 days.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's lost. I think Danielle said she went through like 6 last night.
Yeah. Yeah,
in the
easy.
night.
Yeah.
So
That's how it goes.
Kirk,
Very cool.
you're familiar to kids and family.
Welcome,
yeah.
welcome to the show,
How are you,
Mr.
dude?
Kirk.
Good. It's good to see you guys.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Should we just get right into
I know.
it?
We have a lot to talk about.
Who cares about the niceties? Everyone knows Kirk. Kirk's doing well. He's alive.
This is
He
what your
looks healthy.
fifth
He's
show?
good. Probably something like that.
Something
You
like
might be
that.
the leading. I think you're the leading.
Yeah, I
guest,
think you are
which is
number
good.
5, I think.
We should start tracking that on the wall.
Yeah.
So everyone, Kirk's doing good. He's healthy. Family's good.
Yes.
Let's
Still
use
changing
his
diapers
brain
as
now.
well.
What was that?
Still changing diapers as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Kids
good.
are amazing.
Yeah?
Just watching them, every day they learn something or
I know.
grab something or,
I know.
they just, those little cells just multiply so fast. And
I know.
just new abilities created
It is crazy.
daily. It's
Crazy.
Just, yeah.
I know my 5-year-old Billy, she is a firecracker, man. But all of a sudden,
Yeah.
I was ignoring her, but by mistake, like I was just doing something, and she's going, Dad, and I kind of hear it, and all of a sudden I hear, "Hey, big fella," and I look over and I was like, "What did you just call me?" And apparently on Bluey, I guess they sometimes call
That's
their
right.
dad big fella, and so that's where she got it from. Hey, big fella. I was like, "What the?" heck?
She is a firecracker.
She's so funny, man.
Just wondering if I can get a bit more of my voice up in my ears and a bit more.
Mine
of
too,
Kirk's
actually, a little bit quiet for me.
It went quieter. Thank you guys. Yeah, kids are awesome, man.
Totally.
Gabe's latest thing for me, everything I'm doing, he walks over, Dad, I try. Like, I make coffee in the morning, so he wants to tamp the coffee and flatten. This morning I had him using his finger just to like pat it down a bit.
Yeah.
And then he goes like this and uses his other finger and spills the whole entire thing. It just comes with the territory.
absolutely.
Take a deep breath.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or tell him it's hot, like where the steam comes out.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he wants to go and grab it just right after.
Yeah,
but
yeah, for
it's
sure.
good. All right, guys. We're going to be getting into Bill C9. There's been some amendment changes Kirk can talk us through with the Bloc and the Liberals. I know there's been a lot of outcry, especially in religious groups when it comes to the expression and the nervousness around taking away freedom of speech when it comes to hate speech, when it comes to... So we're going to talk about the origins of that and the slippery
MOU.
slopes and the precedent that's being set, as well as the MOU.
Yeah.
The MOU is a big deal. It's the last weekend, right?
Yeah. Thursday.
So, Thursday. Okay, so 1 week.
So that's between Alberta and federal. Right?
Exactly.
That's what the
Yep.
memorandum of understanding.
Regarding essentially trying to meet Alberta's needs, right? Premier Smith is fighting for Alberta. If you guys aren't aware of that, there's been a lot of back and forth with independent separatist movements, and Premier Smith is she's walking the line of trying to make both parties happy and trying to make Alberta and fighting for Alberta for sure. So we're going to get into that. C9 first. Kirk, want to talk us through maybe what?
Can we say what C9 is first?
Yeah, well,
and then we'll talk
C9
about the nuances.
maybe just talk it through. What is C9 and what are some of the amendments that are being proposed by the Bloc with the Liberal?
Yeah, I'm not sure what it would be officially called, Bill C9, or what's the other tag they have for it, but it's essentially addressing hate laws or
Combating Hate Act is the name of it.
Yeah, so it's a really a bizarre bill to put in. So, when you try to, in Canada especially, or in general, you can't just put one bill that has a lot of things on it. So what we're seeing in Canada right now, especially around freedom of speech and those kind of, in that direction, that topic is, it's broken down what impacts it online, in person, with this bill of hate speech. We're seeing a lot of different bills that address different portions of it, and it's really important to remember that when they come together, it transforms the whole our whole freedom of speech issue in Canada, which we don't really have, right? Yeah. We don't have that like we do in the U.S. Yeah. So they're slowly turning around, or I guess putting control parameters around the freedom of speech issues in Canada. And Bill C9 is essentially targets the hate speeches, and it's really a reaction to what we've been seeing in the streets in Canada. Understandably, in general, the issue is you haven't been enforcing any hate speech issues in Canada for the past 2 years, right? We've had people calling for death of Canada, death of Jews, Christians, whatever, in our streets for 2 years, marching, waving terrorist flags and so forth openly. Yeah. Not a single, case of hate speech. So if you're not going to enforce the previous laws, what are you putting it for, right? And it's just another, I think, control mechanism.
So to be clear, you're saying we have laws that already govern those issues that have been showing up, but they have not been enforcing them.
Absolutely.
Yet they want new legislation.
Yeah, we have whole parts of criminal code that address that.
Yeah,
right?
Because they're calling for violence.
Yeah, calling for violence, calling for deaths, everything. You just can't be targeted. I mean, my gosh, we have RCMP investigations if someone leaves tire tracks on a rainbow sidewalk, right? But we've had people walking around in our streets for 2 years saying death to Canada and nobody cares. Yeah. Right. So it's a little hypocritical to say.
Well, it's a two-tiered application when it comes to justice, for sure, depending on the people group or religious group.
Mm-hmm. And that's been really evident in the last, I would say, easily 2, 3, 4 years in Canada, right? Like we have activism judging essentially judges, which is a huge issue on a whole bunch of topics. So that needs to be addressed. But one of the excuses for this Bill C9 is to prevent people from also blocking, hospitals, streets, whatever, religious buildings, so you can't protest in front of them, kind of thing.
So just to provide some overarching context, we already have hate speech laws in Canada. And just a little aside, you can't truly believe in freedom of speech if you also believe in hate speech laws. Yeah. If in the truest sense of it.
It's a bit of a joke.
But Bill C9 is an attempt, and we've discussed this previously, and what we're talking about today is specifically the new religious belief exemptions that was tabled, I think, even the last couple of days. Yeah. Taking away the protection that comes under religious beliefs. So we have hate speech laws. Remember what we talked about? They were defining what hate speech is, and essentially
it's a circular argument.
It's a bunch of synonyms of the word hate. It doesn't really give you an articulate design of it.
It's the same thing we've seen with what is a woman. It's someone who feels like they're a woman.
And you can't actually get to a proper definition at the end. So the current law in Section 319, 3B, the defense exists if the statement was sincerely held religious belief. And so there was exemptions for that. So if someone say, well, that's hate, it's like, well, no, it's actually part of my religious belief. You have an exemption. The Bloc Québécois tabled an amendment which deletes the religious belief defense entirely, which is also a broad stroke. And we're going to dive into what you're saying is the actual source of the issue. The Liberal position was supporting the Bloc amendment in exchange for a vote to pass overarching C9. That's where this kind of little, essentially the coalition, right, comes into play. So I guess the practical effect we can look at is if people and how this can be applied. People who quote the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, religious text, I guess, that could be interpreted as hatred or detestation towards another group, can now be criminally prosecuted as hate speech, which is a huge issue.
Yeah, that's massive
for the country that we have and what we have. So there is a big deal for it, because essentially it's not just you have Christian pastors, imams, rabbis, teachers, parents, essentially anyone citing religious text, scriptures that could be deemed hateful. Again, it's this whole idea of beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Hatred is in the eye of the beholder, right? Especially if you come before activist judges. This is where the slippery slope is really. So that's the context. The Bloc proposed that to remove that religious exemption, just so we're all clear. Now, where did this stem from? Is this an attack, you think, on Christianity, or is Christians getting lumped in with maybe an issue that's persisting with as we've seen an increase in public displays from the Muslim faith?
Yeah, I think that's exactly where the origin is. I think so just to give a quick update, there was a committee actually on it today, and the Liberals canceled it. Okay. So we're not really sure what's going to happen here with this. But I don't know why, but the CPC, the Conservative Party, is going with this as an anti-Christian thing, but they're missing the complete point here. So I don't think Bill C9, if it passes, which it shouldn't pass because we don't need it, we already have laws that we don't use, cannot pass without this exemption. Now, the CPC and others try to say it's anti-Christian, but it's not. You just can't pass this law without it. And the reason is, the reason the Bloc even brought it up is, in the last couple of years, Quebec is probably the only province in Canada that tries to protect its culture, right? We've seen it with, the religious wares, and they're saying no praying in the streets, and those are broad laws because in Canada we can't really single out a single religion and hope that it passes in court. It just won't, right? So that's the situation it's facing essentially all of the Western world, where we have a growing fanatic situation in our streets, and the only way to broadly to address it is to broadly impact everyone's rights and freedoms. And this is the situation we're in here in Canada with this Bill C9. So, and Quebec has been passing bills and laws essentially to combat the Muslim praying in the streets, the blocking the church in Montreal, and all those things. So they've been passing all those bills, including that there is imams and people are calling death to Canada, death to Christians, death to Jews, and that infidels need to pay them, blah blah blah, or else they'll die, and that they're trying to push Sharia law, right? So without this exemption in, Bill C ignores essentially all that, which from the Bloc point, it's like, no, the whole point of passing all those things is so we can't have essentially a foreign expansionist cult telling us that they're going to kill us, and we say, okay, thank you, right? Yeah. It's more about, okay, how do we deal with this on a legal point? Of course, because it's a broad one, we can't just single out a single issue. It impacts Christians and everything else. They will say, they may have an opinion on, we don't believe in, the same-sex marriages and trans and all this stuff. So it impacts things that have nothing to do with the fundamental part of it, but here we are.
So this is a result, just to recap, like a couple of questions about the thing you said off the hop. So I'm going to clarify. You said it can't pass without this exemption, but
I think
do you mean it shouldn't pass?
It shouldn't, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's such a fundamental part of it, or else BC9 is essentially going to be an empty shell for just essentially for completely irrelevant part of the hate law stuff to control speech.
But that's the concern is with the Bloc and the Liberal.
Yeah.
It could pass. And then we've got...
But that's what the Bloc has raised the alarm on. It's like, no, you're missing the fundamental teeth into this to address this group. But of course...
every other group is thrown in the blender.
Exactly, because of it.
Okay.
And so we have seen, and we can pull up, Paul, I'm sure Paul can bring up videos and throw it under as we're talking about this. We've seen countless public displays of people in cities, actually just in Eastern Canada,
Montreal,
Vancouver, but specifically because in Quebec, of the Muslim faith, of people who have the religion of Islam, were praying in mass, like 500,000, thousands of them in the street, blocking street, but they're doing their prayers and they're doing their thing. Meanwhile, they have mosques and they have places that they can already go. We've also seen violent ones that have happened. You've seen also calls to violence, like you've said, where you've had leaders that have been called to death to Canada, death to. If you look through the religion, you know the religion is at the heart of it. It's
burning of Canadian flags.
The burning of Canadian flags, all of that, is that there is a call to action of actually death and killing for those who don't. So the Bloc is essentially trying to create something to stop that.
Yes.
And other religions are just getting grouped into it. So there's a bigger problem. It's like a spaghetti. It's just like everything's intertwined to stop one thing, but yet you're also setting a very dangerous precedent.
That's the issue the Western world is facing, right? Our laws in the Western world are essentially is a high trust society, right? We've always been a high trust society where, hey, we don't kill each other for different reasons, for different beliefs. We work together. We want the best for everyone else. But thanks to mass immigration, things are changing, right? It's just people have different beliefs. They come from different backgrounds. And we're now facing this dilemma in the Western world. How do we protect our culture and our future? But then, first we'll be able to pass it in law, but also not get stuck with labels and such, right?
Yeah.
Nobody goes to the Muslim world and says, listen, I'm the victim. I want to be able to have a rainbow sidewalk here. I want to have a gay pride parade. I want you to give me.
You're saying in the Middle East, no one does that. Yeah.
Nobody does it because you'll get killed right away. They protect their cultures, right? They'll throw you off the roof right away. So it's a little hypercritical, and it's a situation that we stuck in the Western world is where all those cultures protect their culture, like right down to the final breath, right? Here in Canada, in the Western world, we don't do that. But we're going to have to learn how to do that, or we're just going to slowly bring all those laws that submit our culture and change our culture towards accepting those beliefs.
Yeah. Gad Saad calls it suicidal empathy.
Yes, absolutely.
And I think everyone needs to go read his book and listen to his thing, and because it is exactly this brain parasite that's kind of infected the West, that you act on these feelings of empathy, but to your own detriment and your own suicide, and you're actually even fooled into that because it's not going to be reciprocated.
Yeah.
Okay, so if that's the Bloc's solution and the Liberals are agreeing with it,
it's not. I would say it's not the Bloc's solution, but it's the Bloc's addition to it. That's like, if you're gonna put this in, you need to have that in. But
there's such a simpler solution. Enforce the laws we already have.
Well, yeah. And if anything calls to violence, like that's the real threshold. Like that's why, like, the thing that terrifies me is like when you're starting to define hate speech, it's like who's the judge and jury on that, like, and how slippery of a slope that is, and it's endless. It's like as culture shifts, as definitions of words shift, who's going to apply that? And then also on top of that, the C9 takes away the Attorney General's need to approve these types of things and giving the power to the police, which means it's up to the police who, I don't know if you see these videos, I watch them all the time, where these police abuse their power because they don't know the law. They don't even know. And so then they call in the sergeant comes, the sergeant's going, what the heck are you doing, man? You're an idiot. You have no precedent to be able to do that. Like, and so we're waiting for these guys to know the definition of hate and what is and isn't. Like, that's what scares the crap out of me.
That's the problem, right? Because we say that's hate speech, but for others, it's just speech.
Yeah.
Right? No, I believe that in Sharia law, right? I believe that you should submit to me or you change to.
And they believe that more than what the law. They believe in the law.
100%. That is their law, right?
Exactly.
So to them, that's the norm, right? And we still haven't figured that out in the Western world, in the legal system or culture, that comes first to a certain part of population, no matter what, before anything else that we do.
Yeah.
To us, it's a hate speech. To them, it's just speech.
We're suicidally empathetic.
Yeah.
And you talk about the hate speech laws, but even goes further than that, is that if you've got, we have laws that we can enforce already, and even outside of the hate speech. Like, we in our country, we play favorites based on people groups. If you're not white or you're not original or Westerner here, is that you're going to get a different set of justice applied to you, where we've seen this lots before. Here's a simple thing. You look at a group of people praying in the streets of Montreal, public street, blocking public access, blocking cars, where you've got mosques and synagogues, you got places where you can already pray. Well, we have laws that show you just can't go ahead and block public squares without permits, without the right type of thing to go through.
So enforce it.
Let's not look at the type of people group that they are or the religion that they are and just say, are there people blocking this and there's a law that, let's go enforce the law. If we just actually enforce the law and stop playing, in theory, that would solve a lot of the issues. But we're playing favorites, and we've got to this place where we're playing favorites.
It absolutely is. Like, even this one's a little bit off from left field, but at the same time too, I said this to you before we started, was his name's Pastor Derek Reimer, a Christian pastor, arrested for refusing to apologize via court order instruction, which I was like, I didn't know that was a thing. If let me translate that. The court is telling you what words to say, and if you don't, you'll be arrested. So again, I don't know all the context of all that, but as soon as I saw that, I was like, I'm going to dig. We're going to look into that. We're going to figure out what the details are and all that. But I'm going, what? Like a court order for speech? And because he didn't, he gets arrested. So it does seem like it's unfairly being applied to different groups depending on how DEI determines it.
Bills for the internet, right? That's coming out for... you can even get your internet cut off if you know, if you don't say the right things or say, it's absolutely insane. But that's the real question: is why is our legal system has so much flexibility into it to be basically racist? Yeah, right. We have lower sentences, small sentences for people that might get deported. How does that make any sense? Right, you have no rights basically once you broke the law and you're a foreign in Canada. It's your immigration situation should have zero precedent to anything. So we have all those aspects of our legal system in Canada that is just completely broken, and has all those little nuances that give exit points or reduce sentences for things that shouldn't happen. Yeah, that's what you see, like. People are released on bail, a billion times. It's just such an inefficient cost that we need to bring down. And in regards to this hate speech, we have it. So the question is, why is it not being enforced?
Yeah. Well, I think we all know the answer why it's not, right? It's just we've got to a place in Canada that we have become so indoctrinated when it comes to DEI and minority groups, and we actually judge each other based on where we come from, and that changes how certain things are applied to you. It's DEI, it's all these different types of things, and we've actually let race determine how things walk out. It's crazy. So I just want to be clear for those people who are going to take me off in the ditch. I said 1,000 Muslims praying in the street, blocking traffic, like, let's enforce the law so it doesn't happen. If you have 1,000 Christians who are blocking traffic in the same spot and doing the same thing, enforce the exact same laws. 100%. For us, it's not about the color of skin or about 100%. Your religion. It's about, what are you doing? Have you been assimilated to operate within this country in our group of standards and cultures that we have? That's why people should be coming to the country, is because they want to adopt that country's culture, set of standards, living standards, principles, right? I'm not talking about do away with their ethnicity. I'm saying, we're coming here because we have a set of principles that we agree upon and how we should live. And people who don't do that, there's ulterior motives, or we have to find a way to actually make sure that we are on the same page. But apply the law. Like, it's simple. Why aren't we applying the law? Why don't we have leaders that are advocating for this? Why isn't the CPC advocating for that?
There's too much political pandering, and it's really unfortunate that it has legal implication or I guess results in judge activism and stuff like that, because we should be applying it. Until the Western world learns how to develop a spine and stand up for itself, we're just gonna get run over. There is no in between. We either develop a spine and stand up for ourselves, or we're going to get run over. That's the only two options we have. And we need to see people that are not afraid to be called racist, but are rather address the things that are being creating.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter what race it comes from. We just need a full stop to essentially the expansion of barbarism and and foreign influence in our country, or else it won't change. We have report after report of terrorist groups and money launderers operating in Canada, cartels and all that. Why are we not going after all that? We had like a full squadron of RSMP officers respond to a carbon tax protest here just outside of Calgary, but we don't have money to go after drug cartels and terrorist groups. It's beyond ridiculous, right? We even have a gun grabbing law right now that's going to cost billions more than to budget increase for RCMP officers to actually.
And it's starting on the East Coast right now.
Yeah,
right?
To actually go after criminals and drug cartels, which is insane. But it shows you the priority, the backwards priority that we have in the country.
I was watching the press conference or whatever the question period with the press, talking about that, and they were talking about the time period to return the guns. And so I was trying to look for the details: what guns, what kind, what's the parameters, and I couldn't find them. I don't know. It was just difficult. And so they were saying, so you're compelling people. He goes, no. We have a voluntary period of which they do it. And she goes, and what happens when it expires? And he goes, no. And he wouldn't answer the question. Mm-hmm. You're going, obviously, you're going to now compel people when that time period expires. I'm going, what in God's name are we doing? We are it's like we have no awareness of what's happening in the history or even what's happening in the United Kingdom. Like, it's like, I literally have seen people arrested for Facebook posts.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
It's in the thousands per year, especially in UK.
Yeah.
It's like insane. Elon Musk,
we don't know. We're so silly and stupid over here. Like, we're just watching it happen there, and then we're letting it happen here. Like, what is this garbage?
I always said that Canada is 10, 20 years behind the UK, and everything we do is moving towards the exact same directions that the UK is having.
Yeah.
Canada loves to double down on everyone else's mistakes and take it to the next level.
It's so insane.
It's so insane.
We're losing it here. We're losing our country.
If Pierre Poilievre was prime minister, do you think any of these things that we're talking about would change, or would it be more of the same?
I don't think we'll see laws around like things like Bill C9. I don't think those things will come.
You think, that wouldn't even be tabled?
Yeah, those kind of things won't be tabled. What will be tabled is different application to how and what judges can and can't do. Mm-hmm. I think that cleaning out the bail reforms, all that stuff is that would come. And Michelle Rampal has been working on that, and she's been doing a fantastic job in her portfolio. But I wouldn't see him cleaning out Canada though. He's not that kind of person.
Yeah.
So we still need someone that will have a spine to stand up against what's happening in Canada. And the issue is for the CPC is they're essentially hand in hand with the Khalistani movement in Canada, and they're openly standing in our streets, calling for deaths of Modi, India's prime minister, calling for the death of the different politicians and representatives in Canada for India. They have assassination. They'll do little parades with assassination of even liberal politicians, just because we're growing a relationship with India, economic relationship. So, and the CPC haven't called that out. So you can't be saying you're Canada first, you're Canada, for the sake of Canada's future, when you can't call out a foreign separatist group that has really no basis except freedom to operate in Canada.
This is why, that's a whole nother episode, by the way, the CPC, Khalistani movement, and all this stuff going on. I don't want to dive into that because we want to get to the MOU.
Yeah, we do want to get to the MOU.
But we have obviously an immigration issue, and the immigration issue in Canada. We have to talk more about what it looks like to assimilate to become Canadian. Mm-hmm. Is that when people come in and you want people, and there's a healthy immigration standard that needs to be had, and we've been unhealthy for over a decade.
Yeah.
But that's something that I'd love to see some of our leaders have way more stricter standards for people immigrating to Canada, so they understand the culture, they understand what our standards are, like we've talked about
What
earlier.
is our culture? I feel like it's so lost.
Well,
sorry to derail you there.
No, you're good. Maybe culture is the wrong word, but at least the agreed upon set of principles that we have as Canadians as to how we live together, and also a goal of where we're going. Like, we don't tolerate hate, calling for death and death to Canada, and burning of flags.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
leave your baggage at the door and come in.
Exactly. Leave that crap stuff behind. This is what we're working towards. Wonderful. You're from this part of the world, wonderful. This is what we're doing as Canadians. Let's all do it together.
Yeah.
But we don't have that. It's just a wide open, gaping hole. Come on in, do what you want. And that is going to destroy the country.
Yeah, culturally and economically, right? Because we have to provide essentially economic sustainability to immigrants, but also Canada. And we've done the complete opposite, right? The mass immigration, open borders have been a complete shit show, which is funny because even Trudeau, I think before he became a prime minister, even gave a speech about how there'll be a huge impact to the quality of wages if we bring too many temporary foreign workers. And then they did the opposite.
And then goes ahead and does
it. So we have a huge economic bubble that we have faced because of the mass immigration. You know, it was a short-lived boost. You know, we had a huge boost to the housing industry that's now collapsing in many parts of Canada. But it also came with massive unaffordability, and we don't really have jobs to provide people.
Yeah.
Right
yeah,
on.
for sure.
Let's move on to the MOU.
Let's do it. What is the MOU? Step one.
Yeah, what is the MOU? Well, the Memorandum of Understanding between Alberta and the federal government of Canada, essentially Prime Minister Mark Carney.
You had a really good
Premier Danielle Smith
written monologue on it.
Yeah, little self shout
on our
out.
social media if you guys want to see that.
Well, just to pay some respect to Kirk, had a lot of tweets, still Twitter, a lot of tweets about this and his quick analysis, like right off the hop of what was going on. There's a lot of it back and forth. I did write something. You can check it out on our Citizen X and whatever. But essentially what it is you have Premier Smith, who's a Premier of Alberta, who represents all Albertans. You have an independence movement within Alberta that wants Alberta to completely separate from Canada. And then you've got people who want them to stay within Canada. Premier Smith made a bunch of demands a while ago to Mark Carney stating we need access to tidewater, blah, 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 all these different things to not be landlocked, pipelines, etc., to essentially advocate for Alberta's sovereignty, but Premier Smith's stance is within Canada, or strength within Canada, sovereignty within Canada. They came up with an MOU of basically Mark Carney said it's a win-win. We'll do this if you do this, and it's there's a lot of reaction as to what was it a win for Alberta? Was it a win for Canada? Was it a loss for Alberta? Is Premier Smith selling out Albertans, or is she actually advancing Alberta's interests? So just a reminder, MOU is not a binding agreement. It's essentially a political handshake of stating we agree to try to work towards this. That's kind of the summary of it. Kirk, I'd love to hear your first thoughts. Actually, you probably you've had a week to digest it.
Yeah.
Where are you at with it?
Well, yeah. I put a lot of info on it because it's kind of, the MOU between Alberta and Canada just does not make sense, for the reason is that why, as a country, do we need to create an uneconomical conditions to create an economy for ourselves? Why do we need different conditions that generate more taxes, more costs, and have to use taxpayer dollars on things that are not viable just to build a pipeline, just to build an economy that's going to produce billions of dollars for everyone?
Yeah.
So why are the parameters is uneconomic viability capital towards economically viable projects? It just makes no sense to begin with, right? Nobody else in the world goes, listen, it's like entering a car race and say, okay, you want to enter this car race, but first you need to go buy a green supplier of oil. I know it's going to cost too much and you won't have money for anything else to make your car better, but at least this way you can enter the race. No, the whole point is to finish the race. We need to build the pipeline. We need to do it in the most economically viable situation. This MOU at the end of the day is going to cost taxpayers, mostly Albertans, close to $10 billion in non-economic viable spending, such as the carbon capture, having to provide indigenous ownership in it. The $10 billion,
which I'm sure that it just attracts private investors from around the world, knowing they're forced to have partners when they walk in, right?
And forced to get, build a unrelated tech that has no economic viability otherwise. It makes no sense. But this $10 billion, like, if something, it should go towards the pipeline ownership, or as a partner in it, or spend it on something else. Like $10 billion put towards for example, the tech ecosystem in Alberta, they'll generate us between $50 and $100 billion economy. But instead, we're wasting that on throwing it out on non-economical.
So that $10 billion investing in Alberta, like for data centers, tech,
not even data centers, but invested in tech in general, like generating startups, generating tech companies. The data centers is a really good topic. It's a different topic, and it's actually part of this MOU. But I think it's a complete error. Alberta's been. I'm just going to say a couple of things, then we'll go back to the MOU. Alberta has been chasing the data center shiny coin because we see into US there's hundreds of billions of dollars of investments into it, and it's super important. It's also important for Canada to have our own domestic data center for our own data and protection. It gives us that, I guess, control from foreign influence as well. The issue is those data centers don't create jobs. You build it, you go away. The data center next year is not going to grow to $50 billion. It's not the next Google. It's not going to be the next Amazon. The reason companies into US are investing it is to create leverage for their operations so they can build AI models on, right? So we're chasing the end product of something that we don't have to generate ROI on. So we need to create first the companies that will actually build things on AI, build products, rather than build, a warehouse, essentially. So I think it's a huge economical mistake that we're wasting time on. And Alberta has had approached by close to 400 different groups to open data centers, and 99% of them will never be viable. It's a complete waste of time.
So there's go ahead, Jer.
No, I said wow.
There's regarding this MOU, there are some concessions that Carney made, and obviously there's a lot of concessions Danielle Smith has made. So you asked the question, why do we need to jump through these economical hoops just to get in the game? So is the answer? I'm assuming the answer to that question is the broken relationship of federalism between the provinces and federal, meaning you have these overarching priorities that Ottawa has, that the federal government has, that the provinces have to attain to in order to be able to get the cooperation of the other parties to make it work for Alberta. And in theory, other provinces would have the same issues if they wanted to. But we all know that, and this is fact, Alberta contributes the largest in terms of when it comes to the payments going across Canada. And also we've had the hardest time building out what can make Alberta thrive when it comes to our energy, being landlocked, green energy laws and carbon capture and caps and all that type of stuff. So is that just would you say it's a very just unhealthy, toxic relationship, or is there another reason why there are all these hoops?
So there's two parts. One is, first of all, none of it is economically viable, right, without taxpayer dollars, right? So we're throwing money into things that will not generate us long-term ROI.
Like what?
Like carbon capture. For example, the Pathway Alliance is essentially made out of some of the biggest oil companies in Canada, right? Hundreds of billions of dollars in market cap, billions of dollars in revenue. And that project is so uneconomically viable that they need 75% of the $16 billion it will cost to come from taxpayer subsidies. Now, why would you build anything like that? Even the private sector does not want to touch it without taxpayer dollars, which should tell you that it's not a good investment, right? If the private sector is running away from it. The problem, some of those things have become a social license, right?
Yeah.
If we step back for a second on one topic here, the TMX expansion that the government has completely mismanaged into construction, chased away a private company was going to do it for us, and it cost them over $30 billion. That it doesn't have any carbon capture associations with it or anything like that. It was just completely mismanaged. But that thing pays us back $1.5 billion so far, like this year, in revenue to taxpayers. That is huge.
Yeah.
Like nothing else provides it. It's the number one driver of our export, part of our exports that generated us a positive GDP.
Yeah.
So this one project, because of those, because Canada has such a powerhouse in natural resources, we have a few projects that can change things drastically, and all of those things are, there's nothing the federal government has done to generate that kind of revenue per dollar ever in the last 10 years, except this pipeline, which has brought more than anything. And now, so the conditions for the next pipeline is ridiculous amounts of rules that this pipeline didn't have to face, and we artificially driving its costs and reducing its ROI, which is completely silly. Except we also have no ownership into future pipeline, which is just as silly. And the other aspect of this MOU is, if you remember, before Mark Carney came to Canada, became a prime minister, his whole job was creating carbon credit-based world trade economy.
That's right.
Right? So he wants carbon taxes to be a fundamental part of the world trade and become a new industry. That's what he worked on before coming to Canada.
Do you think he believes, I've read Part of Values.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he truly believes that makes the world, the environment, more viable, more healthy, or is this just another...
It's a social license, like you said.
Social license, or is it another economic industry that they're going to build because of what it's a combination of that?
I think it is. I don't know how much he still believes in the environmental aspect of it. Canada has some of the biggest amount as a country, the largest amount of forests in the world.
Yeah.
Right? If you believe in the environment and all that stuff, start taking care of that. And yet the budget hasn't had a single cent towards protecting our forests, right?
Such a good point.
Yeah.
What a double standard.
Yeah. The Liberals have campaigned before on bringing more water bombers to protect against forest fires, right? Because we had complete mismanagement, like we saw with Jasper. Mm-hmm. We have to rely on foreign countries to send us firefighters. They've campaigned on it before to bring assets, to increase assets to protect our forests, manage our forests properly, reforestation properly, and yet nobody does it because in reality there is no money in it.
It's not sexy.
It's not sexy. There's no, you can't create a hedge fund around planting trees.
Yeah.
Right? Bermuda, you're not going to fly to Bermuda and open a fund for your friends so you can plant trees in Canada. But Carney did open some funds in tax havens for friends and his previous company that focus on the carbon trading system. It's absolutely an insane conflict of interest, but it's also economically, unviable for Canada. And this is one of the issues, is we don't have fiduciary duties for politicians in Canada, so they can do whatever they want with Canadian taxpayer dollars, and there is no consequences. This is one of the fundamental issues that I've been fighting to change, because it's one of the things that will get rid of a lot of headaches. So this MOU have created a standard for a new green agenda, right? This MOU from Alberta has agreed to net zero electricity, net zero oil and gas, net zero everything in our economy, absolutely everything by 2050. So that created a standard, a precedent for Mark Carney now to take to the world, to take everywhere. Before this MOU, he talked into UN about making data centers carbon neutral, so to create demand for carbon credits. And now he got it through this MOU that was not needed to begin with. So all of it should be rejected.
Yeah.
This MOU also came in with industrial carbon tax, which we'll see the cost of it through everywhere. So there's an interesting part to it because Alberta uses the tier system, which will manage the carbon tax, essentially industrial carbon tax dollars internally.
Yeah.
And I will throw this wrench in there, this possibility, because this increase in cost in carbon tax because the Alberta the government can use it as part of its revenues, might be used as a tool to offset some of our budgetary issues.
Just to make the balance sheet look better.
Interesting.
And I won't be surprised if
Which they did with what was the big complaint that they're talking about, the pension, the Canadian pension plan? They consider that as an asset. That was a big uprising.
Yeah, so when the government quotes net debt to GDP, it includes the Quebec pension plan, the CPP and all that stuff, which is, CPP is $800 billion in assets by itself, right? So it's like, we have only 14% debt to GDP. No, you're using other people's money.
Yeah, it's Canadians' money that's paid out to them.
You go take a loan from the bank and you use your neighbor's.
It's called spin.
Kirk has a big savings account. Can I use that?
Yeah. We're friends. We can access it, right?
Yeah.
It's completely untrue, right? So, but that's how.
It's like that meme of picture of Kobe Bryant and that other white basketball player beside him. These two players combined for 82 points on this game. And you look below it, it's 81 for Kobe and 1 for the other.
Exactly.
It is true.
Yeah. So it's complete nonsense, right? But it's but this is the issues with this MOU. It's created a new norm for a green license in Canada.
So, big question: is it a win? Is it a loss for Alberta? Is it a big nothing burger? It depends on the angle people are looking at it from too. But
the interesting part is, I guess, post the MOU, is some Liberal MPs said that you have to have permission from BC, so a must, which is not part of the MOU the way it's written, and a must have Indigenous ownership. First Nations in Canada don't have a veto for any projects, right? The TMX was built with essentially the federal government saying we're just doing this. Right? There was a lot of fighting, Indigenous with the BC government, but they just said we're just doing it. The federal government could have done the exact same thing here. We said we could have been built. We could have just do it. Now, I think one of the issues here with this MOU in general, I think it came a little premature because we really, as I hate to even quote EB or the Liberals, but we don't have a route, and that is part of the problem. If we said, okay,
a physical route for the pipeline,
exactly to where do we
shovels in the ground, you don't have a path.
Yeah, so if we had that before this MOU agreement, if we had we identify a route, we know the essential costs, we know. Okay, we can possibly dig it through this, this terrain, the port has agreed. If we came to the table with that, I think it would have been a lot different. Instead of saying, hey, we want to build this, can you let us have a permission to even talk about it, which is essentially what this MOU came down to. And instead we end up agreeing to more taxes, green agenda, all that stuff. It has absolutely no economic benefits to us. So I think that was the most critical error in it.
I think at the end of the day, and I'm looking at this from a perspective of I want the best path forward for Alberta, and I'm open to independence. I'm also open to staying within Canada. I haven't taken a hardline stance, so I'm trying to be very pragmatic about it. I think Carney walks away with definitely the better optics and the better side of the deal because he's not really committing to anything unless Alberta does a bunch of things first. But also strategically, this is one of the things I wrote, he walked away with exactly what Ottawa always wanted but could never publicly impose. For example, Alberta locked into a net zero framework, right? It's almost like submission.
Huge
Alberta is now cooperating with Canada. Look, that's a feather in Carney's hat. Carbon pricing, staying put, a national collaborative narrative. It kind of squashes to a certain extent. Not truly, but in terms of what Carney can say, Alberta is now, we have a national collaborative effort that we're working. Provinces are, so that's a talking point. He can walk away with it. Obviously, Indigenous equity becoming a built-in requirement. You talk about the partnerships, right? In theory, I don't know if it's actually, I might disagree with myself now that I'm reading back, but a calmer investor climate, because outside investors might look at Alberta separation as disruptive, possibly. That's debatable.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
Yeah,
But let me ask you this: what do you think Carney lost on this deal? What do you think he gave up?
he didn't really give
Not
up
much.
He didn't give up anything.
No.
Yeah.
Right? He walked away with everything.
Well, because they're all ifs. They're all like,
But also they're not ifs. So the MOU, the pipeline construction, the only thing that it's in, the only hard dependency in this MOU is that this pipeline cannot be constructed without the carbon capture facility. Okay, and the carbon capture facility cannot be constructed without the pipeline. Okay, but everything else, like the carbon tax, the net zero, and all this is coming regardless of the pipeline. That's the important part to understand of this MOU. So, because if we want to get rid of the emissions cap, the energy regulation, clean energy regulations, which is really the best part of this MOU, to get rid of it, we have to do it to increase in industrial carbon tax and to net zero. So the pipeline is really just dependent on the carbon capture facility, and if we have a route, that's all. Everything else is dependent on to net zero and to industrial carbon tax increase, which we agreed on. So Mark Carney walked away with everything that he wanted with zero risk, right? He said...
Yeah, his risk reward is...
He brushed it off all to Alberta. He said, you have to deal with BC now. You have to deal with First Nations. Even though it's all in Mark Carney's chair, it's all in... Mark Carney could, with one essential piece of paper, handle it all and say, we're building it no matter what. Let's just get talking. He brushed all of his duties on to 100%. Daniel Smith in Alberta and said, no, you have to go deal with the First Nations now. You have to go deal with BC now. Have fun.
Totally.
So he came out with a zero risk, right?
Well, on the cons, I wrote, Alberta must act first. Federal deliverables come later, maybe. So Alberta must deliver on the CCUS, carbon pricing, emissions intensity, nuclear planning, Indigenous equity, and methane targets before Ottawa even has to lift a finger. Mm-hmm. Maybe.
Yeah.
Right? There's still a lot of ways to shift around.
And
so
all of these criticisms were at the AGM. Like I had a few friends that were there, and they were talking about the Conservative Party AGM that took place, I think, last weekend.
Yep.
Yeah, this weekend.
And that's what our friend was there. I can't think of his name at the moment.
Oh, yeah. Lots of friends were there. We're talking Marty up north?
Jeffrey Rath.
Or Jeff Rath, of course.
Yeah, he was there. And he actually got the mic.
His mic got shut off.
Did they shut off?
Yeah, they shut him off at one point. He's also stirring up the crowd about freedom and independence.
Yeah. I didn't know his mic got shut off. That's funny.
I think that might have been a separate time. I wasn't there, but you're keeping up to date with X and text and all that.
Yeah.
But, okay, so... And also, I heard from a lot of people that Premier Smith is very good, and no doubt Premier Smith is fighting for Alberta from her perspective of what she thinks is best path to move forward. You can't criticize her for trying to fight from her angle. She's stated that she will respect a citizen's movement if the momentum is there in terms of, but her government's not going to, which I agree. Her government should not be leading a charge on that. But recently, Kirk, French CBC, is this last couple of days?
Yeah.
She made comments about how she will run against independence, essentially. Is that what it was?
Yeah, she'll essentially fight it.
She'll fight independence. Mm-hmm. So that's an interesting little shift since the AGM, which also is very interesting timing of this MOU happening a day or two before the AGM as well, right? You need some
the AGM is essentially living off this MOU, right? It was dependent on it. It was the peacock in the room that they could say, oh, we actually did something. Yeah. Right? Like it's, never mind that we have over-immigration, scamming, a poor budget that's way below the oil price. Hey, look, we have a shiny piece of paper. That was the ultimate distraction.
You needed something to keep hopes up.
Yeah.
And that's what it did. But again, the MOU is non-binding. It is words, and there's you don't believe it or take it to heart until you see actual action, meaning shovels in the ground.
Yeah.
Like, are things going forward? So that's the big thing that's going on. But I don't know. Is this going to fuel independent sentiment, do you think?
I don't think the MOU will have any much of an impact on it unless people just get sick and tired of having to beg for conditions from Ottawa to have an economy. And that what has to come down to it. There's probably a majority of Albertans are against separation for different reasons, right? People have affiliation with Canada, they think they're Canadian first, Alberta second, whatever. But at some point, we just have to have a system where we can just develop an economy and not beg Ottawa for it.
Yeah.
No state in the U.S. has to beg Trump for an economy, to open factories, to develop oil and gas, to build energy. But for some reason, we have this system in Canada with centralized planning that we do. It's absolutely insane and completely inefficient.
Yeah.
Right. In the U.S., the argument is right now is how do we cut down all the time wasting bureaucracy and just get building, because the real race is computation and energy production versus China. In Canada, we're saying how do we add more red tape and more time and more carbon credit production rather than economic production, which makes no sense at all.
Well, yeah, and it's like from an investment perspective, with all this red tape and all this uncertainty in having to get federal approval for economic building, it's pushing investment away. Like, why would you bring your money here?
The reason the LNG is booming into U.S., completely booming, is because Canada has said we have no business case to all the companies that came to Canada in the last 8-10 years for our energy products. So they went down to the U.S., they went to Qatar and created 20, 30, 40-year agreements.
Yeah.
And of course, we just first started to come back to this LNG building facility situation where we had just our first one built last year, late to the game, saying, oh, yeah, I guess we should actually participate some of it economically, right? We sending LNG and oil and gas that the U.S. turns around and sells to the world at a profit rather than sell it ourselves. Yeah. It makes no sense, right? And then we're creating conditions for our own energy products that are completely different and not economically viable, where we're sending the same energy products or ship them to the U.S. who do not face any of those costs and just turn around and sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we essentially became a resource colony for the U.S., right?
Clip that, man.
No kidding.
Clip that one.
Holy smokes.
Jared, have you thought more about independence? Like, do you have a stance on it yet? Like, do you have a leaning which way, or are you still like me where it's... I think I have a leaning. I have
a leaning for sure. I feel like a lot of the whenever this topic comes up and I talk about it with people, with anybody I can, like I try to figure it out. I had actually a few conversations with a few Americans when I was in New York last week, because they look at us like a lot of again, it's New York, so it's a very different political leaning compared to Alberta, but they look at us like they wish they were us, and I'm like, and I very quickly was saying, like, I don't think you guys understand our cost of living. We are struggling, man. We'd be one of the poorest states if we became one of them. Yeah. And they were like, "What are you? That's crazy." I'm like, "Yeah, like we really would be. Our housing prices are competitive with New York's housing prices." And so from that perspective is no, I don't really have a hard stance. I'm not like hardcore. Yeah. What I know is if we don't sort this out, it's doom and gloom for our kids. Like, that is the overarching
we can see the path we're on.
Yes, that's where I'm like, I actually think it's probably too late for our kids to have affordable houses. My kids are 10 and 11, like 11, 9. It's probably too late because I don't think we can turn that ship fast around by the time my daughter needs to buy a house.
I think that part, I think we can.
Yeah.
I think.
Wouldn't we have to be already aggressively turning it now? Don't you think?
Yeah, the
housing coming down, or just wage and money coming into Canada going up so people can afford it.
Yeah, so in the last year or so, Canada essentially lent out $90 billion to developers. So housing is a lagging indicator. The impacts of immigration is a lagging indicator as well. And as we're cutting immigration, which should be cut way down, essentially to zero until we figure out what's going on or who we even have in Canada. the housing price in the last 5 years has been solely driven based on, first of all, the cheap interest rates, which I think had the smallest impact in it, but also just the sheer demand for mass immigration.
Yeah,
when you bring in 1 million people,
For sure.
everything is going to drive up, right? And that's what we saw. We've built so much in Canada, or planning to build so much, and there's so much coming up, that I think if we reduce the immigration numbers, I think that will start balancing out. I'm kind of positive on that part, and more into 3 to 5 year term.
But even balance, like for example, do you think they'll be reduced enough? Like when you look at the wages versus cost, and not even just housing, but just everything.
Yeah.
Taxes. I just like right now there's 16 schools, public schools, to be built in the next 24 months in Calgary. Calgary alone, 16 schools.
Yeah, and a third of our students don't speak English.
Yeah, like it's
which is insane.
So like
crazy.
so what I'm like essentially what I'm saying is, even if it cools, and even if it cools by 25%, the house that we first bought, which was already hard 14 years ago, so it was $323,000. That's all in, and it was a side by side, and that was very hard to get into for us. Is listed right now. The exact same house is listed for $600,000. Like that. That's where I'm like, in 14 years, it has doubled. Even if it were to be 25% cheaper, it's still out of reach. Like it's outrageous. So, and I don't even think. Do you think we could even see a 25% turnaround on costs of homes in 5-10 years?
Well,
like that'd be a massive swing.
If you look at the peak of like GTA area, right?
Yep.
The houses off the peak are already 25% down. So in the last couple of years, the drawback from peak has been one of the greatest in
one of the biggest swings that we've ever
in record.
Yeah.
So it depends on what you look on.
Yeah.
The statistics aspect of housing is really biased, right?
Yeah.
You can be very selective on it. But the second issue is the income part, and this is what we really need to solve in Canada, and especially when you look into the U.S. We have a whole bunch of industries that don't even exist in Canada.
Yeah.
25% of our workforce, which is small to begin with, works for the public sector.
Yeah, which is wild.
Which is wild, right? So it's essentially a net zero productivity.
Yeah.
Right.
25%
of our, you can look at it, you can break down our labor, right? 25% of our labor produces nothing except paperwork, bureaucracy.
That's a crazy thing.
Right? And then you look at the other jobs.
Let's just stop there for 1 second.
That's crazy.
That's insane. You say that again. 25% of our labor in Canada
works for the public
pushes
sector.
paper.
Yeah.
Meaning they don't produce anything to go back into the country.
Yeah, they don't invent anything, right? There is no...
It's a liability.
It's a net cost because it's funded by taxpayer dollars.
25%.
So someone has to generate those salaries.
What's a healthy number for a country?
Well, Canada's always been around 20 to 25%, right?
Okay.
The issue we've been facing is that the smaller businesses has been decreasing in Canada.
Yeah.
If you remove businesses that are government supported, such as healthcare businesses,
there's no growth, right?
There is no growth in the last couple of years,
no growth.
which is
not
insane.
a good sign.
Not a good sign. When there is no entrepreneurship, there is no jobs.
Yeah,
there is no organic growth in the markets, right?
Yeah.
And those jobs is what pays for the public sector, and that's the big issues. But if you look at the Canadian labor, I guess, demographics, like we have 25% that don't produce anything because they work for the government, and I understand that they produce the services, right? Healthcare, whatever, but they don't invent, innovate, etc. If you look at the public administration productivity dollar per hour, hasn't changed in 10 years. So it's costing us a net hard cost for taxpayers. And then if you look at the other part of the employment demographics, like, retails, fast food, food services, and all this, it's another couple million people. Right, so we have a good 30 to 40% of our economy that produces nothing, like in jobs that produce literally nothing. So, and that's the issue we really need to focus on, because how do we change that? If we look at our industrial manufacturing, I should post a chart on that. Industrial sector in the last 5 years, essentially pre-COVID, it's gone down. Its productivity has gone down. It's because the government's knee-jerk reaction has been, let's just give you money to do stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And that hopefully will employ some more union people, will keep your, third shift operational, but it's not productive. It's not sustainable.
We did probably a 15 or 20 minute segment, David, on Canada Post, which is I laugh because the loss of money is so outrageous. Am I correct, David, when I say I think it was $10 million a day lost? Losing $10 million a day. So like
the crazy part that they're still campaigning on wanting more money.
I know.
I'm like, you're insolvent. There is no money
and
to pay. What are you even talking about?
Well, and that's exactly it. Where I was like, it's just like we were joking about change. Imagine if you swung the budget $80 million. That's 8 days of business, like 8 days swing, 8 days of 365. Yeah. Like we're just, and so but it's us. Like why are we allowing that to exist? Like it's. Let the public sector solve this problem. I get there's many more nuanced and it's harder than I get it. I'm just saying, why are we band-aiding it and throwing that kind of money out the window? It's crazy.
It is. Yeah.
It's outrageous money.
Yeah. The postal service is there's a lot of interesting things that happen in history that essentially ruined it for a lot of, especially for Canada.
Yeah.
There's some regulation changes. They took out essentially the most productive part out of Canada Post out of it. And there's some changes to how the global post offices work, and it's essentially was good for China, for emerging markets, which is why they can send you anything from Alibaba for free, right? It costs nothing. You can order a 3-cent item from China, arrive at your door with 0 shipping costs, right? Which makes no sense, right? But for you, it costs you more a stamp to send something across the street.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, for sure it does.
Funny. There was this interest. If you think about jobs and job creation, kind of the argument you're making earlier about we have very unproductive jobs, but there's this mentality of, well, we just need to get people jobs, right? And there's also this concern as tech advances, as AI goes, people are wondering, what about the people who are going to lose their jobs? There's an unhealthy mentality of just give people jobs, right? Elon Musk was talking on Joe Rogan a little bit about this recently, and he made the comment about how a guy was walking by a place where you had this beautiful big tractor that was digging ditches, and how he was just looking at him like, man, what about all the people that lost their jobs that used to dig with shovels and used to dig these ditches?
Tractor
There's tons of jobs we have, but now the tractor's doing it. And then the other guy looks at him and goes, well, if you just want to create more jobs, let's just give all those people spoons. Like the priority is completely, you're looking at it completely wrong. If it's just about job creation, give bureaucracy, more jobs, more people have money. It's like you are totally missing the environment of how you actually create wealth, you create growth, you allow people to be able to be inventive and to be have ingenuity. That's actually what creates wealth for a country, not this stupid false premise of just get people jobs, even though it's unproductive. 1,000 people have a job of digging a ditch with a spoon. It's great, tons of jobs. They're unproductive and they're actually not doing anything, whereas it's much better to have the one machine because you're much more productive, which can now produce other things, right?
That's actually, if we can just stick with this for a second, this is actually a perfect example, and I think is extremely crucial to think about in today's economy and world. So 1,000 people that can dig with a spoon got a shovel, and you can do it faster, right? So we don't need those 1,000 people that know how to operate a spoon or essentially use a spoon. That has been part of the trend into industrial revolution. Is once we start using tools and electricity, AI and electricity is essentially a leverage to be able to generate more, right? It empowers things that we can do more with rather than, by hand. So we don't need those spoon digging people anymore. We don't need those shovel digging people anymore, which there are less of. And now we have a tractor that there's someone that operates. It has more skill than those two jobs to begin with. And in the future, the tractor will be self-operating. So we don't need that anymore either. The problem we have, especially in Canada from this mass immigration, is that we mass immigrated low-skilled people that only know how to operate the spoon, that only know how to operate the shovel. They don't know how to drive the tractor. They don't know how to create the technology, or don't have the skills how to create the technology to operate a self-driving tractor, self-operating tractor. And a more big of a problem is we don't have the technology facilities or companies to operate or create the tractor to begin with. So Canada, economies like Canada, has to go to the US and buy the technology for self-operating tractor, have to buy the actual tractor itself.
Yeah.
So now, not only we've lost all those jobs, we also have to print money to buy the technology from someone else. And that is one of the biggest issues that we need to be focusing on addressing. As technology changes, we need to completely adjust our education system as well, not to produce shovel users or tractor operators. We need them to produce higher value products. And that's what we need to be focusing on.
Yeah.
Covered lots this episode.
Yeah, we really did. Thank you, Kirk.
C9, look into that. MOU, we'll see how that plays out, right? Time will tell on that, but I think we have our leanings on that one. Any other things you guys want to close out on?
There is a few other things I was going to ask, but I'm not going to. I was going to ask you a few things with the U.S. and states and everything going on.
We'll have to have Kirk back.
We'll be here too long if we do.
Which will always happen. All right, guys, thanks for listening.
Thank you, Kirk.
As you know, go ahead and like and subscribe. Appreciate you guys supporting. If you have any comments, let us know where you're at with Alberta independence. Let us know if you're religious and you are afraid of the C9 proposals and the changes. If you're of whatever it might be, let us know your stance. If you disagree with what Kirk was saying, let him know. Tag him in the comments. He loves it. We all love it, actually. Let us know. Other than that, we'll see you guys next time back here on the Citizen
Show
Podcast.
goes on. Thanks, guys.